Welcome all to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how awesome 3 Links and Panhard bars are, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host today, Tyler, and sitting here on the next to the side of me on our kind of re-angled and revamped studio is the one and only JJ. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Tyler.
Nice.
Things are going well.
Yeah? How do you like the new studio setup? The kind of the turn rotation of it all.
I do. I think there's still some kinks that we need to work out. Big thanks to the Mike and Max Off-Road Podcast for
thank you guys.
Kind of giving us a little overview and background of what they had going there, and their setup's was a lot better than ours.
Yeah.
They've got some better cameras, better equipment, and things like that. So props to them. But we did snag some ideas from them, and I do like this. But I do think that we have some things to figure out. Like we're holding the mics up with a 9-volt battery.
So they don't need to, that doesn't even show.
Yeah, I know.
It's not even on the, you don't need to.
But it works.
That.
It holds. The problem with the table was it just bent too early and we couldn't get anything past. But yeah.
So cool. We're having some big changes here. We're going to tweak this setup. For the most part, it'll be similar to this. So the cameras work out a lot better this way. Talking to each other works out a lot better this way. It's not awkwardly kind of look at each other out of the corners of our eyes. We'll tweak a couple things here and there. We may throw up, like we were talking about, some FJ40 grills up here behind us.
Or a TV or something.
TV.
We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see what we do. But yeah, if you're watching this video, so that means today is a campfire discussion. And we're going to talk to you about campfiring and discussioning at campfires. That makes sense, right? But before we do, just make sure to go over and check out the Patreon account make sure you get in on that monthly giveaway, because we are doing a $100 gift card to Factor 55. Awesome company. Check it out. We'll put the link down below here in the description of the video. Yep. I think that's how this YouTube stuff works. And so, anything else to add to there? Or?
No, I think this is going to be a good discussion. Stay tuned and we'll get right to it.
Welcome back, everybody. We are back and large and in charge here on the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. Hope you guys have your seats grabbed. You put the Velcro down, your good seat cushions, because you're not going to want to get up for a while listening to this one. Hopefully you're having a very comfortable drive. If you make it to work and you don't want to shut it off, feel free to take a couple laps around the block. Yeah. And tell your boss you were listening to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast.
Have them call us.
Have them call us. We'll get you guys. We have a silver tongue here. We'll be okay.
Yeah. You know, before you go too far, before we start everything, I was listening to another podcast and they said that they are the #1 Toyota Talk podcast.
Oh, really?
It wasn't even Toyota's podcast. Like Toyota has a podcast. Yeah, I think it's called Toyota Untold or something like that. Like it's Toyota employees doing it. And this other one
is it the Land Cruiser one? Or no, that was a Land Rover
it was
one.
Something. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But I really want to be like, let's see your numbers. Let's see how things are.
You want to compete? Let's fight you guys. We'll take this out for a Toyota off.
Yeah. Toyota off.
Yeah, Toyota off.
Sure.
It's going to be a Toyota off. Standoff.
Toyota Standoda.
Do they have cool t-shirts like this that have first gen 4Runners on them?
I bet you they don't even do YouTube.
What? Oh, that just, eliminates them right there. So anyways, you guys suck.
Let's get to it.
Anyway, so the today's campfire discussion is one that I know a lot of people have been waiting for.
Yeah.
Because
me included.
You included. Me included as well. I've been holding my tongue and biting my tongue and keeping from posting pictures online.
Yes.
Of what is going on here. So, as we all know, if you guys listen to any of the last 5-6 episodes of the podcast, my 4Runner was stolen, the first gen. This guy here. And the white one, I call it the first gen now. And I had a big life decision to make, and that was what am I going to do with my life? And
what am I going to do with my rig?
What am I going to do with my life? Life, rig, synonymous, potato. So I
have 5 lives.
You have 5 lives. Yeah. I got a lot of great feedback.
Yeah,
from the listeners.
we got an amazing amount. Yeah,
of feedback of, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Here's some ideas you should do if you're going to keep it and do suspension on it, do suspension work, interior work, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, what I ended up doing...
Are you going to say it?
I don't know. Should I?
Should you say what your thoughts were? So what was going through your head before before you decided to do what you did?
I guess so. Yeah. So there was, we talked a little bit about it, about what I wanted to do with the 4Runner.
Yes.
So I talked about what my 4Runner had, the pluses and negatives of it. So the pluses are definitely the drivetrain. The negatives were the entire interior and the cab and some of the functionality of the cab, not having the 4 doors.
Yes.
So, it's kind of like I wanted something with a much more comfortable interior, power doors, power windows, so I can have a security alarm system in it, remote entry to the vehicle, electronic remote kind of thing. And then I also wanted, working AC without overheating the vehicle. I wanted a decent enough stereo system, at least something where I can listen to music on, and 4 doors. I think I mentioned that.
Yeah.
4 doors.
A few times.
And, but I didn't want to necessarily get a 3rd gen 4Runner. 3rd gen 4Runner is the obvious choice.
Right.
And then just take all of my running gear and throw it under a 3rd gen. Because if I kept my 1st gen, I love the lightweight aspect of the 1st gen, the running gear of the 1st gen, my suspension of the 1st gen, my axles on the 1st gen. I love all of that. I just don't like the interior of it.
Okay.
It's just old, uncomfortable. It needs a huge update. I would have, if I had gone down the road of keeping the 1st gen, it would go through a complete interior rehaul. So I would be pulling the seats, getting new seats for it. I'd be redoing all the interior paneling, putting a new sound system in it, redoing maybe even the dashboard, finding covers for the dashboard. I'd want to redo the A-pillar covers because those got torn up through the robbery. There's a lot of stuff that kind of just got torn up through the robbery of the interior of the 4Runner. So, I was like, I could if I wanted to keep the 4Runner, and the main benefit to keeping the 4Runner is the lightweight aspect of it and the awesome drivetrain. The negatives of the 4Runner that I don't know if I'd ever be able to overcome is not having good access to the back seat area, which I took the back seats out, but just so I could put camping gear and whatnot there, but I don't have a good way of accessing it.
Okay.
So I would need to do a soft top of some sort in order to access that area, because as much as I loved the idea of building another set of doors into the 4Runner,
that's a crazy idea.
That's a crazy
idea. Who had that idea? We didn't even look into it.
We didn't look into it. I started thinking about it in order to make it weatherproof and river crossing waterproof. It was going to be a huge undertaking, huge ordeal. So that was kind of off the table. And so I was like, man, I'm still, no matter what I do, I'm not going to have the access I want to that rear compartment area.
Right.
I wanted a 4 doors, so that puts us into 2nd gen, 3rd gen, 4th gen, 5th gen, or pickup. And I really wanted to do a pickup, but at the same time, I did a pickup for a while. I had a Tacoma for 2 to 3 years that I off-roaded and wheeled, and I got really tired of having to make sure all of my off-roading gear was weatherproof.
Sure.
So I was like, I want an enclosed wheeling rig. So that leads me into a 4Runner.
Okay.
So 2nd gen, 3rd gen, 4th gen. 2nd gens have a terrible engine. And so,
well, that depends on what engine you get.
Most of the time it's going to be that 3.0. So very, very few 2nd gens came with the 22RE in it still, especially ones that had more of the comfortable features because they were a later model 2nd gen with the power doors, power windows, and all that stuff.
Okay.
It's hard to find them with a 22RE 6-speed in it.
6-speed?
6-speed manual. Sorry, 5-speed manual and
I was gonna say.
Reverse. So 5-speed manual. So it's like, it's hard to find those. They're kind of a rare commodity.
Okay.
So the other option is to get a 2nd gen, do a motor swap in it of some kind, and then also throw all my drivetrain under it.
Right.
So that's just... it'd be not a bad idea. It's just a lot of work to do a motor swap and an entire drivetrain and suspension swap as well.
Yeah.
I started looking around. I started looking at third gens, and I thought about doing a third gen, but the more I was looking at third gens, I looked at built third gens as well.
Sure.
And they just don't have the belly height clearance that I wanted to get.
Right.
Their body mounts, for some reason, they just seem higher or higher on the frame. I don't remember.
Lower on the frame.
Because the body tends to sit really low in the belly pan, and your cross member for your T cases sits pretty low compared to the first and second gens.
Okay. I have never noticed that, but
I have. It's one of the things, because I'm OCD now about belly height on my rig. So it's kind of like I can't really do a third gen because I really like my belly height clearance. Second gen is just too hard to find what I wanted, or I'd be down wheeling for about 4 or 5 months doing all the swappy swaps to get a second gen where I wanted it to be. So I wasn't sure where I was going to go with it, and I started looking around. Something popped up on Facebook.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So a second gen 22RE 5-speed popped up on Facebook that had already had the suspension done. A lot of drivetrain was done with it. It was drivable and off-roadable. And so I went over and had you look at it.
Yep.
Because I was gone out of state, and I was like, I really want to check this thing out and see if it is what I wanted to go with. And what was your findings on it when you went and looked at it?
Well, can I back up just a hair?
Sure.
Because I thought the lead up story is kind of funny. Because you've been talking to the guy for a little while, and then you added me into a text thread with them.
Okay.
Right? And you pretty much said like, hey, this is Jimmy. I'm out of town right now, and Jimmy's going to go look at the 4Runner for me. And if it's good, I'll give you a deposit. And the guy was like, oh, yeah. You guys, this sounds way too much like a scam.
Yeah, he goes, this sounds kind of like a scam, bro.
Yeah, I could see how it could be.
Yeah, looking back at it now, I was like, oh, no, you're 100% right. It does definitely look like a scam. So,
and then it was funny because you responded like, no, I'm Tyler from My Off-Road Radio. I do ham classes. I'm also Jimmy's my co-host on the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast, and we started like you started talking about who you are and who you are in the community. And he was like, oh, hey, I took the ham class with you.
Yeah, exactly. He was one of my students.
And I was in that. And the funny thing was I was in the same ham class as this guy.
Yes.
And so...
small world.
Yeah. And so when I went down there to go look at it, I was like, I totally recognize you.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I didn't pass.
Which is too bad. He was one of, I think, that had a really high passing rate class that day. And I think there was only like 3 people that didn't pass. And he was one of them. But he didn't get a lot of time to study with his work. He had a really crazy work schedule for like 90 days straight before that. But anyway, so yeah, it was Small World, ended up being one of the guys that was in one of my ham radio classes. Right. And the same one that Jimmy took, that same class.
That was funny.
After we told him that, he goes, oh, no, yeah, he was super cool. Yeah. Really cool guy. One of the Grim Creepers. We've talked about the Grim Creepers on the podcast a few times before. And so you went and checked it out.
I went and checked it out. And for the most part, I was looking at trying to see if there was any leaking fluids. How did the hubs look? Are they leaking? What is how did the interior appear? And things of that nature. And everything for the most part was looking good. Yeah. I was checking out the belts and some random, in-depth thing, checking to see how because it is a second gen, so it was IFS, and it's been converted over to a solid axle. So I wanted to see how the welds were and things of that nature. And then I took it for a drive. Yeah. And on the drive, I turned on the air conditioner and I asked him to bump the stereo because I said, if you have a bump in stereo, Tyler's, that's all he's going to care about.
That's all I care about. I don't care about what kind of rig it is.
I didn't see a lot of photos prior to going, so it was slightly more banged up than I anticipated it being. But the interior was super clean. And there was like an oil spill in the bed or the trunk area of it, and it's sort of a coffee spill in the front. There was a dent on the passenger side front door at the handle.
Yeah.
Which made the handle of the door unusable.
Yes.
And so I was like, ooh, that's not a good one to have. Then either you're going to have to see if you can fix it internally or get another door, and hopefully you can match the color. Let's see what happens here. Yeah. For the most part, everything cosmetically looked good. It had... Well, one of the downers for me was that it had dual T cases, but they're both stock geared.
That's a big downer for me, yeah.
And the tires are cool. They're Maxxis Treps. I think they're Treps.
Creepy collars.
They're creepy collars.
Yep.
But they're on a 16-inch rim.
Yep.
And so you're like, okay. And I kind of talked to him about that, and he's like, I got a really good deal on the tires, and I already had, so I could get some rims pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine. And then it had the weird backstory, he had a 1993 truck.
Same year truck, 94.
94.
Yep.
He had a 1994 truck that he tipped it on its side or did something with it. And then he found this 1994 4Runner and moved everything from his truck into the 4Runner and then got it carb approved and ready to go and everything. Yeah. So the 4Runner had been worked around a bunch, Yep. But he said he's taken it to the Rubicon. He's done the Rubicon in it a few times, and it's totally trail ready. And he's like, if you wanted to, you could drive it straight to the trail right now. And when I drove it, it drove for the most part fine. It had a weird vibration, which we could talk about later. In second gear, accelerating at a slow RPM. So I was trying to figure out what that was. Otherwise, everything looked great. I mean, the suspension was built well. The Maxxis tires are nice, even though the rims are funky sized. The interior was clean, which is what you wanted. It had a bump and stereo, and the AC blew cold. So I was like, cool. Oh, and he had a bunch of spare parts.
And a lot of spare parts. So, so Jimmy got to go check it out.
I took a bunch of photos and I sent them to you.
Sent them all to me while I was in New York.
Yeah. And you're like, why did you send me a picture of the oil pan? Oh, yeah. And I was like, because it's not leaking. Yeah. It's not greasy. It's not oily. I was showing you that it's actually cleaned.
Yeah. So, so all the pictures look good. I was a little concerned about the door handle because if it was more than just the latch inside the door, then I'd be looking at having to find a new door and finding the right color and everything. So I was a little concerned about that. And I was a little concerned with it being dual cases, but both stock gearing and welded rear and open front.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so I'm going to take and really be downgrading the drivetrain from my first gen significantly. But the interior is exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Clean interior, everything works. Power doors, power windows. It's all tinted already.
Yep. It has an alarm.
It has an alarm. The interior was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
The rear seat, the 4 doors. I love having the 4 doors. But I was like, I got to figure out something to do with the drivetrain because the drivetrain is not what I wanted.
Right.
I would have taken a little bit of a sacrifice in the drivetrain from my first gen, but this was going to be a pretty big sacrifice in the axles and the T-case and the transmission. I thought about it and I was like, hey, let's see. If I could either keep it all and then build it and sell my first gen the way it is. And I think I could sell my first gen the way it is for a pretty penny with the drivetrain that's under it. That's really where the value is in it right now.
Yeah.
Or I could take that whole drivetrain and do a big swappy swap with the second gen drivetrain. So, that's what we're going to end up doing.
Well, hold on. So did you buy the 4Runner?
I bought the second gen 4Runner. So I currently am in possession of 2 4Runners, a first gen and a second gen. And the second gen it's a gorgeous dark green tinted windows. The engine runs great. It drives fantastically. It had hydro assist already done to it. The ram seals are leaking, so I got to figure out.
Oh, really?
If I want to try and fix the seals or just buy a new ram. That way I know exactly how old the ram is and know what's in it and everything. So I'm thinking about doing that. We'll see. Hydro assist. It's got a good amount of lift on it. Has the rears up front. and Chevy 63 half-ton springs in the back. The axles have diff armor on them, but that's about it. There's no gussets, there's no trusses, there's no ball gussets. There's stock axles, shafts inside. Yep. The rear is welded, the front is open. The hubs are the ASIN hubs, which are great. They're strong. They're going to be just fine. The wheels are a 16-inch, I think 16 by 9 wheels with beadlocks.
Weld-on beadlocks.
With weld-on beadlocks. And the tires are the Maxxis Creepy Crawlers 37 by 1250 by 16. So, and it fits the 37s just fine. They did need a little bit of a trim in the rear fenders to get them to tuck. I think it looked more like a little bit of a self-clearing.
I think it was a combo.
It was a combo of it. And so it's sagging right now with those used Chevy 63 half-ton springs.
Yes.
So that's just a byproduct of using used Chevy 63 springs, as we know with Bobcat.
Yes.
So the dual cases, it is the 2.28 front, 2.28 stock gearing in the rear case, but it is twin-sticked.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
It has twin-sticked. I can, drop it into two-wheel drive low. And so that's kind of cool. And it shifts so much smoother than the first gen shifts.
Oh, really?
But it also has the W56 transmission.
Right.
And no short throw shifter on it. So my first gen has the R151 transmission with a Marlin short throw. So it kind of clicks into place with that short throw shifter on there. I've always kind of complained about missing a gear. It was almost geared too low for driveway highway. Okay. And the W56 has been behaving beautifully on the highway behind the 22RE. So the 22RE from a 94, W56 from a 94, dual cases, square drive shaft in the front, regular drive shaft in the rear, 529s in the diffs, low pinion, third in the front, out to the wheels, stock shafts everywhere. And that's about it. Suspension is leaf springs, the rear's up front, and the Chevy 63 sagging half tons in the rear. So,
right.
Bumper, winch, trail gear, front and rear bumpers. That rear bumper, I looked, it's only held on by like 4, maybe 6 bolts.
Oh, really?
So we're going to have to reinforce that for sure by adding some welding reinforcements on it. Front bumper is kind of similar, I was noticing today. It's only got like 4 to 6 bolts that hold that front bumper on as well. So we're going to need to reinforce that. It came with a winch. It's a Badlands Harbor Freight winch. So I'll be swapping that out for a rough country winch I have, brand new. And I'll be turning that Badlands one into a rear winch.
Oh, cool.
So, but the cab and interior is in phenomenal shape.
It is.
It drives really smooth, except when you go around corners and in that low second gear.
Have we figured out what that is yet?
No, not yet.
Have you crawled underneath?
I have crawled underneath. I haven't really crawled underneath to start shaking things around yet.
Okay.
I just kind of crawled underneath and looked at things real quick. But when I let off the gas at speed and go into coast, the T-case makes a really loud noise.
Okay.
As if the gears inside the T-case are, there's space there, and it's hitting each other on the coast side.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm wondering if, as you're accelerating that second gear, low RPMs, they're just not meshing properly. They weren't set up properly, maybe, or something in that rear case. And it's just not sitting correctly.
Right. And I think something else that we talked about, but we haven't said the conclusion is the door handle. The door handle, yeah. So he ordered a new door handle and put a new one on before handing it over to me. And it was just the plastic clip on the inside. So the door handle works. The door works just fine. Yep. There's a couple of dents in the body, but I'm going to put more dents in it, so I'm not too concerned with it. Sure. My big concerns were the interior and make sure the interior was comfortable and nice. Because that's what I really wanted to upgrade to. So, has the secretary been in it yet? She has, and she was pleasantly impressed.
She said, quote, and I quote, "This might actually be more comfortable than riding in the RAV4."
Oh, wow. Really?
So, yeah.
Dang.
She did think it was harder to get into.
Okay.
So I don't think it's that much taller. I think it will be taller once I fix the rear suspension.
Right.
Kind of where the second gen and where the 4Runner saga is at. So now the big question is, what all am I going to do, or are we going to do as a projects to get it the way I want it to be?
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Yes.
And now that we're, a good amount of time into this episode, that's what this episode is about, because we also wanted to try and figure out similar thing to Bobcat, right?
Sort of, yeah.
So if you guys listened to episode 24, episode 24, the one right before this one, at the very end, we mentioned that we did a poll, or Jimmy did a poll on Instagram, and the people have spoken saying they want to see more Bobcat.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see Bobcat fixed and up and running.
Yeah. And for the most part, Bobcat's problems aren't that massive. It just has, I noticed a cracked front leaf spring, not the main one, just one of the secondary ones. And then I'm dissatisfied with the Chevy 63s being so low in the rear. Like, I don't even know if I got a lift, and I had to add a 1-inch lift block back there to just get enough clearance to clear the tires.
Yeah.
And so it could be old springs, and it could be a few other things, but I need to figure out a solution on the backside.
Yeah.
And then there's some other things like the brakes and what I'm going to do. And I mean, and how far do I want to take it is one of my next questions. Like, if I'm already redoing suspension, and I would like to put 40s on soon, what do I have to do? Do I have to make more room in the front? Do I have to push it forward? Do I have to do clearance on the body? Like, literally cut the firewall away? So there's a few questions there, but I think the 4Runner is going to, take the shop away from me for a little while. And so, and 4Runner, but Bobcat runs. I mean, Bobcat's usable at this point in time. So some of the things on this list are going to apply to Bobcat, but I think most of the stuff on this list are straight to the 4Runner.
So that's kind of where we're at. We're all caught up to speed.
Yep. You posted it on social media the other day.
Did I?
You did.
No, I didn't.
Yes.
The second gen?
Uh-huh.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I've been very, very trying not to post pictures or talk about it or anything.
It was on the Morphlate. You posted a picture
son of a bitch.
You posted a photo of inflating the rear tire because it was losing air.
That's true. I did.
I didn't comment because it could have been anybody's 4Runner, right? Like, I didn't write, like, you're showing your new 4Runner off, huh?
I didn't even think about that.
Yep. I saw
Nobody knows that I'm the owner of Morphlates. It's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody knows I'm in control of that Instagram account. No, that's funny. I did put it on social media. Dang it. I was trying to keep that such a quiet surprise. Nobody commented on it. So.
Nobody knew. Okay. I don't think anybody caught on.
Okay.
Nobody knows it was your 4Runner or that it might have been your 4Runner.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I saw it and I just went closed-lipped and liked the image and was like, okay.
Whoopsie doopsie.
So if you did see that, comment on that photo and say you noticed it.
No. Okay, that's fine.
Well,
now that it's out now. So cat's out of the bag. So yeah, I have 2 4Runners. My goal is to swap a majority of my components from under the first gen over to the second gen.
Okay.
And then swap the second gen components over to the first gen and sell the first gen.
Right.
The first gen, well, I guess we'll get there. Second gen, my goal is to have it sitting on my axles.
So we're going to swap the axles from both vehicles.
We're going to swap the axles from both vehicles.
Front and rear off of the first gen and put them on the second gen and then move the other ones to the other side.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're going to do that. We're going to swap probably my drive shafts.
Right.
So I don't have the square front drive shaft on the second gen.
Right, because you want a round one for a double cardan and you want round because you're going to be snow wheeling and you need the RPMs.
So I'm going to swap the drive shafts and I'm going to swap the rear, at bare minimum, the rear T-case. Maybe the front one too, just because I know what's going on with it. It might be easier just to do both when we'll figure out when we get under there. But at least the rear T-case so that I get that 4.7 gear.
Right.
In the rear. And then we'll put the 2.28 under the first gen.
Yeah.
But I think I'm really liking the way the W56 transmission is operating right now.
Oh, yeah?
And if I break the W56 transmission while I'm on the trail, it's the most common Toyota off-roading transmission right now, at least in the trails that we go on.
On the off-roading ones, yeah. The G series is pretty common too.
The G, yeah. I think I'll keep the W56 in there just because it'll be an easy and quick swap if I need to swap it out on the trail or have any blow up the transmission or something while I'm off-roading. So keep the W56 and then keep the 22RE in it. So now, and then that'll give me a 22RE into the W56 transmission.
Yep.
Which will then go into a 2.28 front case, which will then go into a 4.7 rear case.
Yes, I'm thinking.
Okay. Which will then go out to my axles and through my drive shafts. And my axles are 529 ARBs.
Yep.
So I'll have selectable lockers on it. And then that'll go down the chromoly axle shafts out to the hubs and the flanges and all my new wheel bearings that I have.
Right.
And I'm going to swap out the tires and wheels as well. I'm not going to use the Maxxis. I'm going to go with my 15-inch DIY beadlock IROX on there. And I'm going to set up my IROX with my monster valves and play around with those as well.
Nice.
So that covers the drivetrain down to the tires and wheels. The main reason on the tires and wheels is because 15-inch and 16-inch, they're pretty much synonymous right now. They're both hard to find tire sizes for.
Okay.
So I would rather have the 15-inch just so I have more sidewall to play around with.
Okay.
Since they're going to be just as difficult, either one, to find tires for. Plus, I really want the 15-inch, the 3950 IROX. Once I wear through my 36-inch IROX.
You know, something I didn't say on the Barrett Lake trip podcast, but I aired down to like high 6s. Man, what a difference on comfort.
Isn't it amazing?
I don't have bead locks.
Yeah.
And so I was concerned about ripping a bead off. But I went through that buggy line and my buddies were like, whoa, your tires are super like bendy and flexy, but I didn't pop a bead.
Yeah.
Which was crazy to me.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, but because you normally rock crawl at what, 8 to 10?
Yeah.
So just 2 PSI, 2 to 4 PSI, how much of a difference that made? I'm such a huge believer in low PSI, like ultra low PSIs for off-roading. So yeah, so that's kind of where that's going. And then the rear suspension, I need to swap out those leaf springs as soon as possible because they're sagging almost as bad as Bobcat is.
Yeah. So you're going to swap them out because we were talking about possibly getting some an additional set of the same leaf springs and putting them into the one rig or the other.
Sorry, no, I'm not going to... Yeah, you're correct. I'm not swapping the leaf springs with the first gen leaf springs.
Okay.
I'm going to get the same springs that I got for the first gen and put them under the second gen as well.
So you're getting new Chevy 63 5-inch lift leaf springs to add to the second gen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure once I have that set up, once we have the axles, the T-case, the drive shafts, and the rear leaf springs and my wheels and tires swapped over, I'll be able to ride and enjoy the second gen for the rest of the wheeling season until trails close. Then, once trails close, and while we're in that kind of downtime season between trail closure and when snow hits, I want to do a big project on the second gen. Oh, yeah? Yeah. So one of our listeners, a good buddy of yours, Mr. Hustle Nuts, has a pair of 14-inch King coilovers.
Fox.
I thought they were Kings.
I thought they were Fox.
I thought they were Kings. I thought they were a very bright blue color.
I don't remember.
Anyway, so the 14-inch coilovers, he's not sure the spring rate on the springs. So I'll need to play around with that. But he's going to give them to me for a phenomenal price.
Yeah.
So in between the summer rock crawling season, snow season here this year, I want to rip out the whole front suspension into a 3-link with a panhard bar and coilovers, 14-inch coilovers. So that's going to be kind of where my ultimate long-term plan for where the 4Runner is going to sit until I decide I want more power out of the engine. And then I'm going to do a 3RZ swap to it. So if I decide during the summer season that the 22RE just isn't going to cut it with a slightly heavier rig, and with hopefully I'll have the bigger tires on there by the beginning of next year as well.
Okay.
We'll see. If the 22RE doesn't cut it, then I'll be looking at doing a 3RZ swap in it next year at some point. So, and that'll be, once I have that done, that's going to be where it's going to sit, I think, long term. That's kind of where I'm at. Thoughts? Ideas, opinions, how crazy I am? Feel free to tell me to go find another shop to work out of.
No, I think, well, for the most part, it's going to take a solid few days to do all of the first step.
I think so too. I think it's going to take, I'm guessing if we work on it 2 days, 3 days a week, it's going to take us 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on parts and what issues we run into along the way.
We're going to have to talk about a lot of that. I was writing all this down.
I saw, yeah.
As
you want to show the camera everything you wrote down on this list here?
Yeah. And so, just like I just wrote down front axle, and I drew arrows across the lines, and I wrote down trans, and there's no lines going across because you're now talking about keeping the W56, and then front bumper, rear suspension, that's just stuff for the second gen. But I think if we can get everything together, a few weeks would probably be possible.
Yeah.
And
I would love to have this all done and take the second gen to Barrett Lake.
Next weekend?
No, that's the October. Shoot, it is. It's the last weekend of September.
That's in like 2 weeks?
It's in 2 weeks. I think it can be done.
You better start ordering parts.
Yeah.
And if we could have some late nights, I think it could be done.
Okay.
At least that part. I wanted to ask you about your trans. Do you have the 23 spline output shaft out of your transmission?
That's a good question. I'm not for certain. I know I have the chromoly output shaft on the T-case.
Right. From T-case to T-case, or from the T-case? Yeah. Or from the... Where do you have that one? From transmission to T-case, or T-case to T-case?
That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it's between the cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then you might need to take both cases.
That's true. Okay.
And depending on what your output shaft is for your transmission, you might not be able to move your T-cases.
Okay.
And you might have to get another 4/7 gear and trade that out.
Yeah.
In the rear T-case.
Yeah. Okay.
That would probably be the easier way than rebuilding a T-case to changing an output shaft.
Yeah. Or just end up taking my whole transmission over anyways. Because the thing about the transmission is if I end up doing a motor swap, that W56 is not going to cut it.
Right.
If I go up to a 3RZ or pretty much anything bigger than a 22RE, that W56 is not going to... I'm going to blow the transmission at some point.
Right.
I could just keep my R151 in the meantime and just deal with the low gearing until I upgrade the motor.
Yeah.
But I may not end up upgrading the motor because this 22RE seems to be performing a lot better than the first gen's 22RE.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I'm newer. The vacuum lines are better because the 22RE I have in the first gen is the first iteration of the 22RE.
Right.
The one that's in the second gen right now is the third and latest iteration of the 22RE. So there were 3 different iterations of the 22RE throughout the years.
Right.
I don't know if they nailed and figured out a couple things and just to make it run smoother and better. It's running very similarly to Lloyd.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting. Also, are you going to be running your ARB lockers off the power tank?
No, I will be running those off of the ARB system, which I also need to swap over then. But I can, in the meantime, once I swap over the axles, I'll need to swap over the ARB and the air system. And I'm going to redo the air system and set it up so I can run air tools and have it regulated down to the PSI for the lockers as well.
Right. So when were you thinking about doing the 3-link? Sometime in between when trails close, which is typically the end of October,
and when snow hits, which is typically in January.
So really, we're doing all this work on the front end for a month.
Well, we're doing all the work on the axles and the drivetrain.
Well, that stuff's got to be moved over, right?
Yeah.
Right, but then we're going to have to take off the axles and the drivetrain, and the
just the front axle,
front drive shaft, disconnect the rear or the front suspension, and start setting up a 3-link with a panhard system, which I would think you would want to go with a 4-link. Why do you want to do a 3-link?
So that's a good question. I was playing around with doing a 4-link, and I've had multiple people who have experience with linked suspensions say that with a Toyota, it's just much easier and better handling on and off road overall to do a 3-link with a panhard bar. You just have less to get in the way, because with a 4-link, you have a few more things you have to get clearance and everything on. And they said it's kind of unnecessary for how light the front ends are and everything on it as well. I'm trusting their opinion
right
on it. So, yeah.
To me, it seems shocking that a 3-link with a panhard bar would be better on the road than a 4-link system would be, but I don't have much experience driving either one of those on the road, so I don't know. But I do agree that a 3-link is easier to set up, but I don't know if one is better than the other. If anybody out there in podcast YouTube land has any experience with this, please comment below. 3-link, 4-link, what would you do? What's available out there? What's easy? I know like Rock Slayer makes some cool kits. Rough Stuff makes some cool kits.
WFO has some great builder kits.
Has some good kits. So, I mean, there are options out there. It's just that's going to be an interesting build.
Yeah.
We've got a few things to figure out. Like, your transmission's a big one about which direction we're going to go.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to need to get all kinds of gaskets and gussets and things like that. Gaskets, really. Especially if we're tearing apart 1 or 2 T cases, we're going to have to put them back together with other stuff. We're going to have to get moving if you want it done in 2 weeks.
Yep. Yeah, the other reason I really want it done is to sell the first gen. So I need that chunk of money back here as soon as possible. Not as soon as possible, but to make other people happy. So that's kind of it. I was thinking if I could take the second gen to Barrett Lake, that would be awesome at the end of the month. I don't know if we'll be able to make it happen. And I might end up riding a second passenger seat and riding a right seat with somebody on the Barrett Lake trip.
That's
instead.
What I was going to say is there might be a problem, or we might come into a situation where something isn't working right. And if we try to attack this, then you might not have a rig to take. Yeah. And so there needs to be, I think there's some things that need to be figured out that we need to just see, like, is this feasible? Is it going to happen? And what are the repercussions if you don't make it to the trip with your rig? I
think bare minimum, I think that we can get the axles swapped out and the ARB system set up before Barrett Lake. No problem.
I'm sure.
It's going to be the T cases and getting that 4.7 gear set up before Barrett Lake.
The axles aren't going to be that's not going to be a bad swap. I mean, we got axles, and then that's going to include the brake lines, which is a pretty easy thing to do. But that's the main things that you're going to have to disconnect when you swap those things over. What about your e-brake?
E-brake, I will probably have to swap over the pinion brake on it. So,
okay. Does the pinion brake change the length of your drive shafts?
I mean, it does, but like a quarter of an inch, maybe half an inch.
It's just that plate that goes in there.
The rotor that goes in. Yeah.
Are the drive shafts the same lengths?
I haven't checked. I would assume they're.
I would assume they're close, but
yeah,
that'd be a good thing to just sort of see. And you could probably just measure it as it sits, and it'll tell you close enough to how it'll work.
Yeah.
How about under protection body armor? It has sliders on it. It has the bumpers, which we need to figure out and tighten or check, add more bolts. But how about skid plates?
There's the basic, the W56 and dual transmission skid plate cross member there that's sold from pretty much Marlin and Trail Gear. It's that same kind of flat plate design.
Okay.
The one under the first gen is definitely bulkier and beefier, but it's not a game
It's not a deal breaker.
It's not a deal breaker to not have that one.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to pull them off.
You have to pull them off anyways to
Either
get the
way.
T cases out, yeah.
Mhm.
So it'd be a matter of if the beefier one bolts right in, don't have to do too much modification, then yeah, let's throw that one in there. But
Right.
it's not a deal breaker if I don't have it. So
All right. Well, let's go out and start tearing stuff apart, huh?
yeah,
Maybe I shouldn't sell Lloyd so fast.
I might need Lloyd for a few days, maybe a week. Oh man. So yeah, that's where the 4Runner's at. Bobcat, do you want to talk a little bit about Bobcat? And I mean, we talked a little bit about what needs to be done. Because I know you mentioned those are the problems. You haven't mentioned what are some possible fix. You're the kind of playing around with what are you willing to do? What lengths are you willing to go with for Bobcat?
And I think it's sort of in the same ballpark as you, is like, what do I want to get done and by when? Minimum, I might just get new rear springs.
Okay.
Maybe new front springs. Just to finish out this wheeling season. And then my thought was during the winter season, possibly linking full widths or things and going to 40s.
Okay.
One of the biggest problems for me is trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my front axle.
Yeah.
Because I believe my front axle needs to move farther forward so I can fit 40s under there pretty easily. Because right now I rub my firewall with my 37s.
Yeah.
And so when I go to a bigger tire, I'm going to be rubbing even more, or I'm not going to have as much up travel, or, and there's really only one way for me to push the axle forward, and that's by linking it.
Yeah.
Because I can't. I tried to I drilled new holes in the springs, which is near impossible. Don't ever try to do that. Spring steel is crazy hard and eats bits like crazy. But I did. And I tried to move it forward, and then my steering...
your arms were hitting?
Arms were hitting. I can't remember what the tie rod and not Panhard and
the tie rod and drag link.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. They were colliding when I would start to compress, and so I can't either. I've got to move my power steering box farther forward, and then all this other stuff farther forward, which I probably might have to do unless I go full hydro. So now I'm looking at what do I really want to do? What's the game plan
the
for
rabbit
this?
hole? Yeah.
Yeah. Or stay at 37s, and, just fix the suspension and stay as is, So I'm kind of in this, like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go?
You're
scenario.
running the rear up front, right? In Bobcat?
I have some old All-Pro springs up front, and they're either a 3-inch or a 4-inch lift. I don't remember.
Okay.
I mean, because I put them on in, like, 2006?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah, and then your rear, definitely, I think. So in my opinion, I think that those 5-inch Chevy 63 springs would be perfect for the rear of Bobcat. It's going to take a long time for them to get broken in because Bobcat doesn't weigh anything in the rear with the bed. Maybe
I should just take the ones off your white 4Runner while we're doing all this.
Swap.
Because those are a little bit broken in.
They're a little bit broken in, yeah. And then we can just put the brand new ones on the 4Runner. I mean, that would work. You could take and get some 5-inch lift springs for the front and see how much that gets you, how much extra clearance that gets you.
Yeah.
If it gets you enough to run 40s without rubbing too bad, we can just limit your up travel in the meantime until we get around to linking it. And then once we get around to linking it, then all bets are off. We can create whatever we want.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that Bobcat just depends because I know you also don't want to be super tall.
Nope.
I like being tall.
Right. I want to stay around 20 to 22 inches.
Okay. See, my bare minimum is like 21. I need to be above 21, preferably 22 or higher, 23.
Yeah. And I don't know. Right now, I have 37s with the 3 or 4 inch springs in the front, and then the flat 63s in the rear, and I'm around 20 now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go any higher.
Yeah.
And I'm putting bigger tires on, which means it's automatically going
go
up.
higher. Yeah.
Right. So I want to figure out a way to get the room to fit 40s, but keep it low. Keep it at around 20.
We're going to be looking at tubbing the firewall at that point.
Probably.
Yeah. And doing, You know, what's that guy's name on Instagram? Mustache Matt?
I don't know.
Oh, he has a really sweet build. I can't remember now off the top. It's a Tacoma build. It's a first gen Tacoma. But what he's done is he V'd the body panels, the sides.
On the front?
On everywhere.
Oh, he boat-sided it.
He boat-sided the whole rig, and that gave him clearance and room to mess around with the firewall and cut into the firewall and make these massive tires fit on it. So
interesting. I need to think about it and do more research and see if I want to start going full widths, do hydro, go 40s, and play this game, or settle down and say, you know what, 37s are good enough, and I need to figure out a good solution about basic suspension. And go big on another rig. Not to beat a dying horse or anything, but another thing that I have to deal with is how long is this going to take, and is it going to take away from YouTube stuff? Right. And I have which I asked about on the poll, I have build Bobcat, build Charlotte, build Samantha. Those are the 3 things that I'm doing right now. And I know people asked for Bobcat, but wheeling in Bobcat kind of is my big thing. Building Charlotte is, I think, step 2 for me. Even though that's not what the YouTube or the Instagram community was
people
saying.
Want to say,
So I get more views on a Charlotte build than I do on a Samantha build. So.
It's life problems. Life decisions again. So, you guys out there, everybody out there had some awesome ideas and feedback for what to do with my 4Runner situation. So here's your chance again to write in and let Jimmy know what he should do with Bobcat. So what are some options, maybe short-term versus long-term, maybe, hey, just throw some springs under for now, finish out the wheeling season, then we'll do 2 pretty big fun projects over the winter season and go that way. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. So it's always kind of up in the air. We never know when to make up our mind and make a decision. So it just kind of happens whenever we hit necessity, I guess. Let us know what you guys think. Send in those ideas to Jimmy at SnailTrail4x4.com or Tyler at SnailTrail4x4.com. You can always reach us on social media, SnailTrail4x4 and 4x4 Toyota Tyler. And of course, the YouTube channel, check it out. You'll be able to make comments on this video down below here and let us know your feedback there as well. YouTube.com/SnailTrail4x4. And then, of course, make sure you stop by the Patreon page and check out all the giveaways and stuff that we have going on. So this month is that Factor 55 $100 gift card. So make sure you get signed up for that by September 30th. I think that's it. Did we make it? Oh, the website, it's SnailTrail4x4.com. It's kind of the central hub. You can find everything there. Links to everything, a roadmap of how to get around. And I think that's about it. Should we wrap this guy up?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Do you have any final words for everybody?
4-link front.
With that, my friends, keep crawling.